विठल गोले सर आ गए हैं वेटिंग रूम में। पहले आप लोग ज्वाइन करिए, फिर हम उनको ज्वाइन कराते हैं। सी वेटिंग रूम, प्रियंका मैम आ गई, ठीक है। उग्रसेन जी आप आइए।
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes. Good morning, participants. We are very soon going to start our STC session. We have today Dr. Ajit Kumar Mishra, sir. He is Associate Professor in IIT BHU. I welcome you, sir. Very soon we are going to start.
Good morning, sir. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. I'm just testing my audio and video.
Yes,
so
sir,
if
please,
everything,
please.
we can start. Yes. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. And good morning to all participants and analytical committee on behalf of Humanities and Engineering Science Department, Madan University of Technology. I, Dr. Hussain, Assistant Professor and Organizing Committee.
मैम हम आपको बनाने जा रहे हैं. You are host now.
And various analytical tools and techniques jointly organized by Department of Humanities and Engineering Science, Madan University of Technology, and Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, Surat, Gujarat, sponsored by TTP. I hope you enjoy a lot of and get benefited with last session. Sorry, last 2 days session, which very interactive for you guys. Coming on today, as you know, there will be 2 sessions. First session will be taken by Dr. Ajit Kumar Mishra, sir, IIT Varanasi, on importance of communication for research. Before we start the session, there is tradition to our esteemed expert behalf of you. Not taking so much time, I will take to initiate my colleague organizing secretary, Dr. Permissible, for providing our esteemed expert, Dr. Ajit Kumar Mishra.
Thank you so much, President, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It is my honor and pleasure, and I can say it's my great opportunity to introduce Dr. Mishra, sir, in front of all of you. Ajit Kumar Mishra, sir, holds a doctorate degree in African American Studies from Banaras Hindu University. Sir is currently working as an associate professor in the Department of Humanistic Studies at the Indian Institute of Technology, BHU, Varanasi. His research interests includes narrative studies, visual culture, and humanistic communication. He has been an institutional and corporate trainer in areas of research communication, management communication, crisis communication, and health communication. Sir has finds it thoroughly enjoyable when he is interacting and learning from the multitude. Sir has been engaged in the mission of language and literature for change and development for quite some time now. Sir has conducted about 50 interactive sessions on research methodology and research communication in FIPs, FDPs, STTPs, STCs, and dedicated workshop. Sir has designed courses like research communication, literature and coping skill, and leadership through literature to guide STEM students into the world of literary experience. So now, without making any delay, I am now moving towards to Sir. Sir, now the stage is yours. We are very keen to listen you. Ajit sir, please now start.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti, for those kind words. Okay, I do not exactly know how much of those words I actually deserve. So, but anyway, I mean, this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm looking forward to this experience with these participants, as I can see from their names and some profile pictures that are visible to me, that most of these participants are very, very young people. Am I right, Dr. Bharti?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So can you give me any idea about the background? I mean, just a brief idea about these participants.
So,
I mean, are they faculty members, research scholars, or it's a mix of faculty members and research scholars?
It's a mix of, sir, it's a mixed audience. We have BTech graduates, MTech graduates, research scholar of every stream, as well as our renowned faculty members also.
And that's great. That's great. And they come from all kinds of.
And sir, we have management graduates also.
Ah, that's great. That's wonderful. So that makes it a heady mix, which is, I mean, apparently difficult to manage, but it's a challenge that everyone would like to enjoy and take up. So I'll also do the same. Thank you very much. Hello to all the participants. Good morning, everybody. So if you give me your signal, we're going to start with the day's you can just write a yes or no in the chat box, all the participants, so that we can start. Okay, so yes, just give me a signal. Right, thank you. Dr. Anurag from Haryana, right.
Yes, sir, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. I have received your messages, and thank you for those messages. Well, as you know, you might have gone through the schedule of this short-term course, especially today's, and might have seen that the importance of communication for research. This is one area that most people do not take care of, because no one treats communication as an important segment in the research process, because people think that research happens. It is not conducted, it is not done, it just happens, because there are certain stages through which you pass, and at the end of it, you get the results. Of course, that happens. But what are those things that make it happen? Are those things important? Are we missing out on any of those things that we should be taking care of? So these are some of the questions, some of the issues that we will take up in this session for around 75 minutes or so. Towards the end of the session, I have reserved around 10 minutes to allow you to come up with your questions, your doubts, and your queries. And I want to make it interactive so that you also engage yourselves, you participate. Questions will use the last 10 minutes. In the meanwhile, I mean, during the session, we can use the chat box for certain observations and comments. So that is how I plan to conduct this session. Well, as I told you, communication is such an important aspect, such an important element in research process. Yet, most people have not given enough importance, have not attached enough significance to this particular aspect of it. But we'll see how this particular aspect can actually transform the research process and the research experience, not up to the acquisition of the results, but beyond that, because you all know that research is needs to be sustained. It's something that needs to be sustained. It's not that you have received your doctorate degree, you have received a certain degree or a certificate, and you're happy with that, and you do not look beyond it. So this is something that we need to take care of. Most people do not do that. Once my paper gets published, I'm free. I do not bother about it. Is that the end of it? The publication of a research article, the award of a degree leading to a PhD or an MPhil or an MTech degree. Even in MTech programs, you submit a dissertation or a thesis. Even in BTech programs, you submit dissertations and project reports. So is that the end of it? Not necessarily. So we'll see how we can actually take care of this important aspect of research so that we attach a great amount of value and we make a research sustainable, even beyond a certain point. So let's take a look at it. Give me just a few seconds to start, share the screen with you. Just a few seconds so that I'll be back with you. Another few seconds before the screen is fully shared with you all. Yes. So if you can see the screen, if it's visible to you, just give me a signal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it visible to all the participants? Participants, please give me a signal that it's visible to you.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, fine. Well, you can see something interesting on the screen. I'm not talking about the title of it. I'm talking about the image that probably speaks about it, speaks about what exactly I plan to do in this session. I'm going to talk about the transformational process. You can see the transformation happening right in front of you, from caterpillar to the butterfly. And this is a transformation that moves on, that goes on cyclically. Every cycle, the same transformation happens. So this is a never-ending process. Similarly, when it comes to research and communication, it has to be a never-ending process so that the transformation goes on and it never comes to an end. So that's important for us to understand. So let's see, not only see, I have deliberately made it living the transformation. So if we begin to live the transformation, if we experience, if we know, if we realize, and then begin to live the transformation, it will be easier for us to understand the whole process. So let's start with this. Now, why do I say that research is a communication process? When you look at your screen, you'll find that it's a communication process. There are three distinct segments. This is one, this is two, and this is the final, the last one. Now, when you start your research process, you start by identifying the general study area. For example, you cannot say I'll conduct research into all areas. All areas are equally important, but you need to pick an area that excites you or you are interested in it and you're ready to own it. You're ready to live that area. It's not that you pick one area on Monday and by Saturday you leave that area and move to another area. So that's not a good idea. It's a good idea to pick an area which can match your interests, which can sync with your interests, so that you can live that area for a long, long time. And you can make that area your own. You begin with that area and you end your career with that area. And During this process, you may slightly modify your inclination and your affinity with that area. But it's very, very important that you pick an area. And how does that begin? That begins with the process of communication. Now, when you pick an area, how do you do that? I'm talking about BTech graduates. I'm talking about the MTech students. I'm talking about the researchers, young researchers, and even the faculty members, the senior uh, level 3 faculty members, level 2, level 3 faculty members. Now, when you look at these process, you'll find that this is, in fact, a communication process. How do you identify an area? How do you know that you have a genuine interest in this area? It may happen that one area creates interest in you one day at a certain point in time, and the same area doesn't interest you the next month at a different point in time. So how do you know that you actually like that area and you're ready to accept that area as your own? So this actually involves a communication process. So how do you do that? You begin by communicating with yourself. You ask yourself, do I really like this area? Does this area interest me? That is stage one. If you think you're still in some doubts, it's not very, very clear to you, even after communicating these ideas to you and speaking to you, you can think of communicating with your friends, whom you call your peers. You may find people who you think are also interested in similar areas. And if they are interested in the same area, that's better. So you begin to speak to those people, your friends. You discuss, see, I have this idea. What do you think about it? Now, they will certainly, they may not be an expert of that area, but they'll definitely give you valuable inputs. So when you carry your ideas, initial, inchoate, and wild ideas to your friends, they are the best ones to verify your ideas. So you may trust me because that happens. Most people do not do that. At best, they communicate with themselves, say, okay, this is an interesting area. I'm interested in this area. So I do not need it to be verified by anybody else in this world. So let me go ahead with this area. That's exactly where the problem arises. Your interest areas are not verified. Allow them to be verified. You carry your ideas to your friends and listen to their views, their opinion. And then go to the next stage, the next level. Carry your ideas to your mentors, to your advisors. When I say mentors and advisors, they may be your seniors or maybe the faculty members in a certain department. If you know that a certain faculty member has also an interest in this area, go and meet the faculty member. You write an email, you send a message, you fix an appointment with the faculty member and go to the person. Discuss this with them. And that faculty member has seen more summers than you have. Therefore, the same faculty member can be of great use to you. So when I'm talking about these stages, what exactly I'm trying to do? Now we live in the era of information revolution. This is an IoT, Internet of Things era, or the digital era. Now, if you're studying in a certain department and you do not find a faculty member, there may be two conditions or situations. One, you find a faculty member, at least one faculty member with whom you can discuss your research area or research interest. If you do that, and there is another thing, you may not find any faculty member in that department who has an interest in the same area. In both the cases, what you can do, you can go beyond the boundary of your institution, the department and the institution. You can try to look for faculty members or experts who know that area well. There are certain communities, you all know that, communities like academia or ResearchGate and various other communities. You can explore, you can be a member of those communities and explore, begin to explore the people who are the experts who also work in that area. Then try to communicate with them. See, what I want to say is that this is the most important choice in the life of a researcher, because you cannot make choices, research choices every day. When I say my research interest is narrative studies, narrative studies has been my research interest for the past 20 years. It's not that I change that area every month or every year as a new year resolution. So last year it was my research interest. This year on January 1st, I'll have a new research area. That cannot be, that's not a good idea. You cannot develop, you cannot grow in one area if you do that. So it's always a good idea to gradually build a network of people who are also interested in that particular area. They will tell you whether you are ready and you fit into the scheme of things in that particular area of interest. So it all begins with a process of communication. And this process needs to be extended as you go on, as you move. So you can see, how do you choose a research topic? It cannot be a one man or one person choice. If it's a one person choice, it may not be good. So if the choice is based on enough research, enough exchange, enough interaction, then you can be sure of your area. And then as you move downward, you can see this is, then you can formulate your plan, your methodology, then you begin to collect your data. While collecting your data, you also need to communicate, whether it's a survey or a questionnaire and various focus group interviews, various other things. Even if you collect sample in the form of texts, you are communicating. So the process of communication begins as soon as you decide to start your research process. And then as you move downwards and you engage in serious research, and at the end of it, you're ready to present your findings to the world. Now see, you begin on a note of communication. This is one. And when you come to the end of it, that is also one. So it actually goes a full circle from one to one, because this is the beginning of your communication, and this is also the beginning of your communication. Once you have your findings, your results in your hand, now you're ready to communicate your results and findings to the world. So you're again communicating. What I mean to say is, this is such an important aspect of your research that we cannot afford to, ignore this. So it's very, very important, because communication is everywhere. When you have not started your research, you need communication. When you have completed your research, you also need communication. So communication is everywhere. It will take you. And that's the reason why I told you that when we find results, that is not the end of research. That is in fact the beginning of research. That's the beginning of another research process. And that is the beginning of the sustainability of our research. We need to sustain our research. So that is how, and that's why I call research as a process of communication. So research is communication, in fact. But most people and most academies do not attach a great deal of importance to research as communication. And that's the reason why I introduced this course called Research Communication to the research scholars, the PhD research scholars at our institute. And they all liked it very, very much, research communication. Okay, so I designed this course and presented it to. I conducted, but remember, before I designed this course, I conducted 6 workshops for research scholars, just to check what exactly do they want, how they can be helped in their research process or in their research enterprise or endeavor. On the basis of my insights into the needs of the research scholars, I developed this course, Research Communication. So that was a process of communication. I wanted to communicate with research scholars. Had I designed the course without discussing it with anyone, without interacting with the research scholars, that would have been a one-person decision, and the course would not have been as good as it is now. Because now this course is designed through the perspective of the research scholars, not through the perspective of one individual. That's exactly what I'm talking about when I say networking, because we live in the era of networking. So networking is the most important thing. So that is how you create a network, by communicating. So therefore, communication is very, very important. If this particular segment is clear to you, you just quickly send me a signal in yes or no so that we can move to the next segment.
So, it is clear, sir. Can we take question meanwhile, or we should take questions at the end?
If we have questions related to this segment, we can take them right now.
So, I am reading it. Please, you decide and then answer. If someone takes data of someone else and interpret excellently so that it gets published with a very good impact factor journal, would you like to give any research credit the scholar?
Of course, why not? Definitely, we do that. You know, when scholars come to us and then work with us, we are their mentors. We are their advisors. I have always had problems with the usage of this word supervisor. There are two phrases that I have always had objection to. One, this particular student is working under me. I mean, you might have come across this expression, this statement. Most supervisors use this statement. They say that this and this person is working under me as a research scholar. This and this person is under my supervision. Okay, so these are the two things I have always had serious objections to, even when I was a research scholar. But fortunately enough for me, the gentleman with whom I worked never called him my supervisor and never said that this person is working under me. He always said that this person is working with me. Under me. So there's a huge difference. The moment you say with me and under me, that means you are superior. The scholar is inferior. The scholar is not inferior. Okay. The scholar is a young learner. You have seen more summers. The scholar has not. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the scholar is inferior. Okay. So that's the idea. So I always believe in calling a person who is working with a research scholar thesis advisor. I call myself a thesis advisor. I advise my scholar to do this or do that. I just advise. I show the person the way. I facilitate. I coach. But I'm not the supervisor. The moment I say I'm the supervisor, the scholar will be under me. So there is absolutely nothing wrong in giving all credits to the research scholar, because it's the research scholar who puts in all the effort and brings data to the thesis advisor for, sampling, analysis, and finding the results. So therefore, there is absolutely nothing wrong in giving credit to the scholar. So that's the whole idea. And the moment you think that you are working with a certain scholar, this will happen automatically. That's the reason why I tell you that communication is very, very important. How I communicate that particular thing. You can see the difference when you say, this person is working under me. Second, this person is working with me. You see the difference yourself. The moment you say, we are working together, that means you are giving the due advantage to the research scholar as well. So you're treating the research scholar as important to that research project, to that research thesis. So the research scholar will also develop a great amount of confidence. Okay, remember that as a thesis advisor, it is our responsibility to groom research scholars, groom them. They come to you as novices, new beginners, new learners. And when they leave you, they must be, if you can see this transformation, then you can think, task of being a research or thesis advisor well. So that's the most important thing about it. So, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, go ahead. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Please let me know if I'm audible. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so is that clear? Did I answer the question? Did I answer the question, Dr. Bharti?
Yes, sir, you have answered that.
Did
Yes,
I
sir.
answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let's move to the next segment. And that's the reason why I call that communication is very, very important here and all through. Now, this is for research scholars, okay? Those young learners who are in a state of confusion, in a state of doubt at the beginning, because they do not know this area well. So that's the reason why they always find an advisor or a mentor. So it is the responsibility of the mentor or the advisor to help the research scholar gradually build confidence, to groom the research scholar. And how do you do that? You can begin with this particular thing. And what you can see on your screen, you can see there are 4 grids, 1, 2. Some of you, those especially from the management background, they may be familiar with
Yes,
this.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The Johari window.
Johari window, yes.
Right. So now this is the area. The research scholars come to the research supervisors or the thesis advisors, the mentors, as persons in this area. That means this area is not known to the self and not known to the others. As a thesis advisor, as a mentor, you do not know that research scholar, that researcher well. The researcher also doesn't know himself or herself well. And the research supervisor or the thesis advisor or the mentor is also in a state of doubt. The mentor doubts the abilities of the scholar, the researcher, doubts the knowledge, the level of confidence, everything. The mentor is in a state of doubt and the scholar is in a state of confusion. Therefore, this area is not known to anyone, either the research scholar or the mentor. So most research scholars join the mentors in this area. Now, when they join in this area, they have these 2 problems, these 2 issues. One is the blind spot. That means they do not know a certain ability in them. So when they interact with the mentor, the peers, friends, the peers, the mentors, these people can actually find that particular ability in the research scholar, which the research scholar himself or herself is not aware of. And this will happen when you take yourself to the peers, the mentors. If you do not do that, this will not happen. Because no one in this world knows himself or herself completely well at the beginning, especially at the initial research stage. So to overcome the blind spot, to discover what other abilities are there in you, you need to communicate. You need to discuss. You need to carry your ideas to your friends, your mentors. They will find something important, something significant in you, and they will let you know. For example, I can cite my example. When I was pursuing a master's program, I never, until the first year of my master's program, I did not want to become a teacher. I never wanted to become a teacher. This was the last thing I wanted to take up. Okay. I wanted to join banking services because it used to be very, very glamorous then. But I used to discuss my ideas, my views with one of my teachers whom I treated as my mentor. And he was very friendly with me. So one fine day, he told me he wanted to know what kind of profession I'm looking forward to as career. So I told him banking. He said, no, never go to banking. You lose your creativity. You have a lot of creativity in you. So you go to teaching. That's exactly where you can channelize your creativity for a lifetime. The moment you join banking services, it will be lost forever. So I didn't go for banking. That was the beginning of my teaching career. I never wanted to become a teacher. So he actually encouraged me into this profession, this vocation. So you never know, your life will be transformed by somebody else who is your mentor. So it is always a good idea to take yourself to people, interact with them. They may call you an idiot or a stupid, but that will also help you. Okay, so that is how you can overcome your blind spot. Now there is another problem. This is the reverse of the blind spot. This is known to you, but this is not known to others. How do you make others accept a certain ability in you? By taking yourself. Okay. How do I know Dr. Bharti and Dr. Ugrasen? I know Dr. Bharti and Dr. Ugrasen now. How do I know? Because they came to me, they spoke to me, they discussed few things with me. Now I know them. All right. So now I know them that Dr. Bharti and Dr. Ugrasen are actually moderating this session. So at the end of it, I can say, yes, they have good moderating skills. If you say, no, I'll not do this, please ask somebody else, you are losing that opportunity. You're allowing yourself to be in the dark. When you know that you can do this, then just allow yourself to do that. So that is how you can overcome the hidden area. That means you have to go to people and request them to give you an opportunity. Just give me an opportunity and let me perform. You may fail, but you performed. And success will come to you very, very soon because you have decided to perform. So that's why it's very, very important. So it's very important for a researcher to overcome these two hurdles, these initial hurdles, from unknown to the blind and the hidden area. And once a researcher does that, then the researcher can come to the open area. Now the mentor knows the researcher well. The researcher also knows himself or herself as well. So this is a journey which is undertaken by your mentor and the research scholar together, from unknown to open. That means when the research scholar comes to you, it is the unknown realm. When the research scholar leaves you after receiving the degree, that means you must see that the researcher has transformed, has grown a great deal. If that happens, you know that you have performed. As a mentor, you have succeeded. That is your degree. That is your award. So is it clear to everyone? Could I communicate clearly to everyone?
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Yes, we can take questions. if the participants wish.
Sir, I asked to participants, there is no question right now.
Okay, fine then. Let's move. Now, most participants are very familiar with this person, this face. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And this scene from a cult movie, Bollywood movie, the person says, we do not have the whole day. And you all know what he meant by that when he said, we do not have the whole day. That is the biggest problem today. We do not have time for anybody. If that is the problem, so how do you overcome that problem? You go to a mentor and start to talk about your research plan, your research ideas, your research interests. Remember that the mentor doesn't have the whole day for you. This is a real world. No one has time for anybody. So all you have to do is to keep it short and sweet so that no one feels that somebody's time is being wasted by somebody else. So therefore, it's important that you develop these skills. This, again, a very important communication skill, which is required in the research process. If all research scholars, all researchers at any level, either the BTech or the MTech or the PhD level, if they all develop these particular skill, they will have a wonderful time. And what is that skill? Keeping things, the skill to keep things short and sweet. So that means you develop this particular skill. You talk about your research interest in just 2 minutes or maximum 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes. So we call it the 2 or 5 minute research talk. In 2 minutes or in 5 minutes, you talk about your research, whether your research interest or your research process or your research findings and results. So at the end of it, for example, you have submitted your thesis and it has been approved by a panel of experts, examiners. Now you're asked to defend your thesis. When you go to defend your thesis, they may ask you to talk about your thesis in 2 minutes or maximum 5 minutes. That's what we do in IITs. We allow the research scholar, researcher, to talk about the research in 5 minutes maximum. Now, if you do not know how to talk about your research in 5 minutes, then it will be a major problem for you, because the experts will again tell you that we do not have the whole day with such a face, which will be very, very discouraging for you. So just to avoid and to transform such faces into smiling ones, you need to keep it short and sweet. So what do? You practice that in 2 minutes, I'll talk about my research. Okay. So how do you do that? You need to develop that communication ability. I'll let you know how you develop that. Now, if you know this model very, very well, now let me know how many of you know this model well, the IMRAD model. We call this IMRAD. You may not call this IMRAD. You may call it IMRAD model. Just write in the chat box quickly and let me know how many of you know this model well.
Not so much sure, sir.
Write in the chat box, participants, please.
No.
Yes.
The most of answers are no.
Okay, most of the answers are no. Right. So this is called, I mean, if you know this model, this structure very, very well, that means you know your research area very well. I don't exactly know whether this is very, very legible or not. Maybe because of a broken pixel, but I'll let you know. This model is called, and this is a universal model. This is a universal structure. That means all research papers have this structure invariably. This is called the IMRAD model. IMRAD, I, introduction, M, methodology, R, results, and this is a structure word. Therefore, this is not capitalized. And discussion. So it makes it introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. That is the structure of all research papers, all research articles. So no research article can afford to not have this structure. See, when you look at this, this is introduction, okay? And then these are the steps in the introduction. Then you come to the methods section. Then you come to the results section. And you come to the discussion section. And these are the steps in the discussion section, which leads you to the conclusion section. And then references. No, this is the structure of a research paper. All research papers, in fact. So now what's important is when you know the structure of your research paper, well, then it will not be a difficult idea for you to talk about your research findings in either 2 minutes or in 5 minutes. It will be very easy because you know the structure of your research paper completely well. So you know what is there in the introduction, what is there in the methods and the results section, and what's there in the discussion or the conclusion section. So you know your research very, very well. And this is, you know, your original contribution. This is exactly where your original contribution lies. You can see this empirical and original part of your study report, which is very, very narrow. You can see the structure resembles an hourglass. Therefore, it is also called the hourglass model. That's the structure of all research papers. So if you know, that means when somebody asks you to talk about your research in 5 minutes, you talk about the introduction, the methodology, the results, and the discussion. Fine. If you talk about these 4 segments, then you have talked about your research findings, your research completely. So it will not be a problem for you to compress your research findings either into 2 minutes or into 5 minutes. Okay, is this clear to everyone? So let me know.
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Yes. Okay, fine. Now, with this, we must allow the transformation to begin. Why do I call it transformation? Again and again. Now, if you look at the structure of our society, this is our society, which is organized vertically along specializations. For example, in the Department of Humanities and Management Sciences at SSM University of Technology, Gorakhpur. Now, the same department has a mix of faculty members who practice humanities and another group of faculty members who practice management. Now, it may happen that somebody who teaches English will say, I have a colleague who is a very, very good researcher, who is very, very knowledgeable, but I do not know what the person does or what the person has done. This is what most researchers, faculty researchers in universities and institutions say regularly, frequently. I know the person sitting next to my room, but unfortunately the person sitting next to my room professes or practices a different discipline. I know the person, I know that the person is very popular, has received many awards, has published extensively, and is read widely, but I do not know what the person does. Now, that is one of the big ironies of our time. Because why is it so? This is simply because that people, this is the answer, simply because that we do not prefer to move out of the silos. Silos means the labs, the enclosed spaces. We do not decide to move out of those enclosed spaces and enter the larger society around us. And that's the reason why the growth is always vertical. You can see all vertical growth. And when the growth is vertical, there'll be no equity in any society. That is the biggest problem. In order for equity to be in the society, we need to make it horizontal, not vertical. So this horizontal growth is very, that means it is disseminated uniformly. It reaches every segment in society. So why do I call it the transformation? The transformation because there are two aspects of communication and research, or research and communication. You may, call it either way. This has two dimensions. The first is communication for research, and then a research communication. These two are different from each other. Initially, you need good communication abilities, good communication competence in order to conduct research, embark on a research project. Once you do that, now you need good research communication competence or abilities in order to sustain your research. So what we do is, we look at both the sides of the same axis. If this axis is research, we look at this particular side and we also look at this particular side. This side focuses on the achievement, the accomplishment, and this side focuses on the sustenance. So achieve and sustain. If we look at both the sides, then research can actually last for a long, long time. And it can actually trickle down to all the layers of a society. So in order for that to happen, we need communication here, and we also need communication here. So we need communication for research here, and we need research communication here. So until now, we have focused on communication for research. From now, we'll focus on research communication so that this vertical growth can be converted into horizontal growth. Okay, so that is the whole idea. Therefore, we'll have to let this transformation begin. Unless we do this, the transformation will never ever happen. So let's take a look at this. Who? Now this who question is very, very important. Now, we all know that every year, millions of research articles are written and published in thousands of journals across the globe. So that means there are a lot of scientific papers out there. Okay. Now the STM report, if you're familiar with this STM report, the Global Association of Publishers, they publish reports on scientific and scholarly publications every year. The STM report says that there are 1.8 million articles published each year. About, this is not an exact count, there are about 1.8 million. That makes it 18 lakhs. 18 lakhs each year in about 28,000 journals. When I say 28,000 journals, I mean all those standard journals. 28,000 journals. That's a great figure. We must But the problem is that figure as great? Let's look at it. Now, this is the question. Who reads these papers? Is a big question. Most often, I'll tell you, you'll be surprised and even a little shocked to hear that. Most often, a research article is read by the authors, the editors, and the reviewers, and nobody else. Most often, if you are very fortunate, your research article will be read by 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, maximum 20 people, not more than that. So this is a very, very alarming state. See, half of academic papers are read by their authors and journal editors. And this was actually reported in this STM report. So that is not very, very encouraging. Look at the amount of hard work a researcher puts into the writing of a research article, the reporting of a research article in the written form. But at the end of it, when the researcher discovers that no one has read the paper. Now, look at the amount of dissatisfaction and discouragement somebody might experience. So this is a major challenge for us. Now the question is, how can communication help in this particular scenario? And does it help? If it helps, how does it help, or how can it help? So let's take a look at this. But before that, I tell you why most people know that research articles published in research journals, specialized research journals, are not read. Then why do people publish in research journals? They still publish in research journals, and there are various driving factors. If we talk about India, the biggest impetus for the decision to publish in research journals, no one is bothered about whether the research paper will be read or not. They do not take that into consideration. They take something else into consideration. And what is that? Promotion. So in India, it is CAS, Career Advancement Scheme. Promotion. So if I want promotion, I must publish. I must not bother whether my paper is read or not read, whether my paper gives me certain points or not. That is the most important concern to me. So see, just look at the level of compromise that we have forced ourselves into. We are compromising. We are compromising our hard work for career advancement scheme, for promotion. Yes, but that helps at times. And the second is, there is an impact factor fixation. So people think that if they get a high impact factor, they will continue to enjoy a great amount of reputation in the society, especially in the academic community. People say, look at this person, he has published 100 research articles and his citation H-index score is this, his citation status is this. So he has crossed 5,000 Google Scholar citations. So that's an achievement that people are fixed with. That's an achievement. So this fixation is in fact has to do with impact factor, reputation in the academic community. But the academic community is not everything. It doesn't constitute the larger society. The academic community is a very, very narrow and limited community, which doesn't constitute the larger society. So we need to look beyond this particular fixation, either the CAS fixation or the if fixation, that is the impact factor fixation. So this is exactly where we need to develop certain other communication skills or other communicative competence which can help us a great. Now, the discipline, the first discipline that was quick to discover the power of this. What is the power? The power of the need to tell. The power of telling it to others, taking it to people, taking it to everyone. The first discipline to discover this power was management. And that's one of the biggest reasons why management has emerged as such an important discipline in our times. Whether you are a medicine professional or a medico, you need management skills. You practice humanities, you need management skills. You practice engineering or technology, you need management skills. You practice law, you practice agriculture, you need management skills. So management is everywhere. There was a time long ago, psychology was everywhere. It was believed and strongly believed that every discipline needs some amount of psychology. Now, it is believed, and strongly so, that every discipline needs some amount of management, and it is not wrong. We need management. And so, how do we manage the research output so that we can sustain research, so that it is not lost in those journal pages only, so that it remains alive in society? We need to develop this particular communicative competence so that we can tell others about it. So that this complex process, when you look at this image, you'll find that it is very, very complex. It is very, very complicated. So how do you make it simple? When you look at this particular thing, see how complex it is. So this is your research article. This is your research article. It cannot reach everyone unless that person knows that particular area well. It cannot reach everyone. Even within disciplines, we have specializations and thousands of specializations. You go to an electrical engineering department, you'll find faculty members. If you find 10 faculty members, they must be, there must be 5 specializations, at least. Sorry. And a faculty member from one particular specialization doesn't understand the other area. So that's important, so that you make this process uncomplicated. You decode and simplify the process so that you say it in a very simple manner to a non-expert and the person understands it. Otherwise, when you look at these lines, these are vertical. Vertical means specialized, specialist lines, vertical lines. And these are non-specialist or non-expert lines, horizontal lines. So it is not easy for you to communicate from a vertical position to a horizontal position. It's very, very difficult. So how do you make that process easy and simplified? Let's focus on that particular aspect. So I call it the Darwin Buzz. So this is one strategy. I'm going to talk about the strategies that you can evolve, that you can develop in order to, carry your research from a vertical position to the horizontal position, from vertical realms to the horizontal realms. So what do? You go to, this is the first strategy that you can adopt. I call it the Darwin Buzz. You all are familiar with Darwin, the father of evolutionary sciences. Now, those who are familiar with Darwin's times, the Victorian times, the Victorian age in England, they also know that Darwin revolutionized evolutionary science with the publication of his book, The Origin of Species, in 1859. That book was published in 1859. Okay. So with its publication, people's views about evolutionary science changed forever. So this is a path-breaking work. But I must tell you that at least 2 decades, 20 years before the publication of Darwin's Origin of Species, all the ideas contained in it were in the air. That means the discussion was already there in the society. All the ideas that are contained in the book were in fact in the society. They had reached the society at least 20 years before the book was finally published in 1859. Now, what is that? And that created a great amount of buzz in the Victorian society. You all know that the Victorian society used to be the most orthodox of all English societies across all ages. So it was not easy for somebody like Darwin to prepare the Victorian mindset to accept these changes. So Darwin did something very, very interesting. Before his book was published, he had released his ideas into air and into the Victorian societies. So a debate, a discussion, an interaction over his ideas had already begun in the Victorian society. So that was very, very interesting. So what I mean to say is, you can always create a buzz about your research by communicating your ideas. Even before your research article is published, you can create a buzz in the network. So the buzz is important. People must know that yes, something is coming to help their lives, to make their lives better. So that is how this buzz may happen. So how do you create the structure of that buzz? From this empiria is a Greek term that means experience, because your research process is an experience that you're gathering. It's an experience. From experience to the impetus, that means the energy to communicate. You develop a certain energy. You decide to communicate. And then this onus, the onus is on you. How do you communicate? How do you make this happen? How do you transform people's lives is your responsibility. So in these 3 distinct stages, you carry your research communication. So what do you do this? Now this is Eureka. I call this Eureka Syndrome. Now you all know that Eureka was uttered not once, multiple times. Eureka, Eureka, Eureka. Eureka was uttered by the famous Greek scientist Archimedes, who suddenly discovered the principle behind the floating of heavy objects, the floating of heavy objects on water. So he suddenly discovered, and he was so excited. Why do you think he ran down the streets naked? He ran naked down the streets and shouted, Eureka, Eureka, Eureka. He could have restricted his findings to himself. So why do you think? I mean, this is a short question to all the participants, why do you think Archimedes, is the name correct? Archimedes? Archimedes,
Yes, sir.
yes. Why do you think Archimedes ran naked down the street and shouting, Eureka, Eureka? What did he want to achieve with that shouting and running naked down the streets? So if I can see a few responses from the participants in the chat box.
Because he wanted to communicate that he have achieved something which is not knowing by other.
Okay, fine. That's a very good response. Any other response? You may write it in the chat box. Quickly.
Please raise your hand so that I can unmute you and you can interact with sir. Participants, please raise your hand.
Okay, are we getting questions, or we can keep the questions to the end?
Sir, please keep it for end.
Right, fine. Fine then. So that was a good response from you, Dr. Bharti, that he wanted to communicate his findings to the world.
Thank you, sir.
Objective? The objective was to make people know that here is something that can transform your lives.
Yes.
So he wanted to communicate the message that something is coming to transform your lives. Therefore, I must not hide it from you. I must tell you in your language that here is something which is going to transform your lives. And that was actually, you rightly say that was in fact more the expressive urge which every human being has, inherently has. There's a natural, inherent urge, desire, the desire to overcome silence and to give voice. So that means we cannot keep our ideas in the silent zone for long. We cannot keep our experiences, our findings in the silent zone for long. We must communicate them to others. And this is something that we all learn from Archimedes. Eureka, the Eureka experience. So it is all about realizing, knowing, and naming. If these three things happen, that means you are ready to communicate. You first realize. For example, you touch a hot metal, a hot object. You suddenly feel the heat because you realize that. Now you know that it is heat which is troubling you. So now you're in a position to call it something. Now in this case, it is heat. So in order for somebody to call something heat and communicate it to others, one has to realize and then know what it is. And then realizing is feeling, feeling, knowing, and naming. So it is all about that. So feeling is, sensory experiences. And then you know it. Now in a position to, find something to express, talk about it, and then you name it. So that is the whole idea. Well, do we have a question? I think I could see a chat box thing. Yes, do we have a question?
No, sir, not right now.
Okay, fine. Right. Now, this is important because we need to communicate our research to the world, because if we do that, it will be very, very successful, because our brain loves stories. Our brain doesn't love complicated, written records or spoken ideas. Our brain loves those things that are presented in the story form. And therefore, it is called the story loving. I mean, if we look at the theory of mind network, it is proved that the brain loves stories. And it is also proved by neuroscientists that the brain loves stories, because if you read a research article to a group of non-experts, they begin to secrete cortisol, a negative hormone, cortisol, which is secreted when somebody is in stress, anxiety, or depression. So that means these people do not like it. Now, when you talk about the same research in a story form, then they suddenly begin to secrete oxytocin, a positive hormone. That means the brain actually loves stories. So on the basis of that, you can see the last thing, I'm not going to read it for you, you can quickly read it, how the mirror neurons are fired when we convert complex research findings into story forms and communicate that to the non-experts, to the larger public. So I'll quickly show you a neuroscience image of the areas that get lighted when the brain receives things in story forms. You can see these are the areas that get lighted. This area gets lighted. These are the areas, this, and this. All these when we communicate things in the story form. So all these areas, and all these are very, very important areas. The front, okay? The frontal lobe, the anterior, the posterior, you can see the front and the rear. It's lighted when something is presented in the story form. So that's just a quick, now look at this. This is a research article or a research report. I showed you that hourglass model, if you remember, the Imrat model. Now this is the owner's phase. That means it's completely up to you to decide. This is the Imrat, I, M, R, and D. This is exactly where you find and. This is the Imrat model. This is how you report, you write a research article. But how do you convert your research article into a story? You cannot follow the same structure while reporting your research findings in a storied form. So what do? This is the model. The model is this. This is the introduction. You create a catchy, very interesting introduction. Then you come to the research process. You do not talk about the results and the methods in detail in a scientific manner. You talk about the research process. This is the most important segment of your research story. This is a research process, because this segment actually makes it acceptable to the larger audience, because people would always like to hear about how you finally achieved your goals, so that they can also find it manageable or achievable. And that's the reason, I'll give you an example of that. That is one big reason why these days, the making of a movie, there is a movie, okay, in which you see magical things happening. For example, you find the hero who can easily beat 10 people. And you suddenly, the hero can develop 6-pack abs, 8-pack abs. And you are amazed by the power of this hero. How can this person beat 10 people? And you suddenly begin to believe that that person is a hero and I am not a hero. I'm a common man. I'm not a hero. Therefore, I cannot do this. But when you look at the making of a movie, you suddenly, verify your belief. You suddenly understand that, okay, it is not the hero who beats 10 people. The 10 people fly on their own. The hero only waves his hands, nothing else. And with the help of the camera and certain technical support, this is being done. Now you know how much the hero has to sweat while going for that fight sequence. So now you know that there is something human about it. And that is exactly what makes us identify with, makes our brain identify with stories. So how do you communicate a story? How do you create a research story? You communicate a story and you remember. I mean, if you all remember your experiences with your grandparents, I don't exactly know whether grandparents tell stories to young children these days or not. They must be busy with their mobile phones. So when grandparents tell stories to the young ones, it may happen that you like the stories told by your grandmother and you do not like the stories told by your grandfather. Why is it so?
Yeah.
It is so
Yes.
because brain can identify with the way the story is presented by the grandmother, not by the grandfather. Or it can be vice versa. It's just an example. So that you can identify, the brain can automatically identify with it, with the human element. So therefore, it's very, very important for us to learn that this is how we need to tell the story. So that people can identify, non-experts can identify with the stories. We can skip these things, okay?
Yes, sir.
So we can quickly come to this particular thing, especially this is of interest to all the young research scholars, including the BTech students as well. And I think most of you must not have heard about this particular thing. Dance your PhD. Have you heard about it? Dance
No,
your
sir.
So, I mean, you may also give a similar expression when you hear about it. Okay. Is it a similar expression when you hear about it?
Yes.
So it's an expression of shock, surprise, of course, because people will be shocked when I say dance your PhD, but there's nothing shocking about it. Dance your PhD is in fact an annual contest. You can quickly read. It's an annual contest that is organized by AAAS, this American Association of the Advancement of Sciences, and Science Magazine. Okay, so since 2008, this is an annual contest in America in which they invite entries from 4 disciplines: biology, physics, chemistry, and social science. I mean, entries from those researchers who have received their PhD degrees. They invite these researchers to convert their entire PhD process, PhD experience. I'm not talking about the PhD degree. I'm talking about the PhD experience into a dance form, into a dance video, short dance video of 20 to 30 minutes and send it to the organizers. All you need to do is to talk about your research findings through dance. Okay, and this is a wonderful, wonderful contest, and people from various parts of the globe participate in this. You can go to the Google search box and type dance your PhD. It will take you to the concerned website, and then you can see it for yourselves.
Okay.
How wonderfully people convert their complex research findings into dance forms and offer it to the non-experts. And that is how the vertical growth is transformed into the horizontal growth. Okay. So the vertical growth gets transformed into the horizontal growth. That everyone knows about it. Earlier, only a few people knew about your research. Now, a large number of people know about your research. So you're more popular than earlier. So that's the idea. So quickly, in 2 minutes, because we have 2 minutes to go. Quickly, I'll talk about this particular case. This is about a friend of mine who is a faculty at IIT Madras. He teaches international relations there. So he once conducted a very extensive and intensive research into a complex problem. So he was studying he was actually charting and mapping the journey of a Malayali family from Kerala to China. The family migrated to China in the 13th century. So he was mapping the history of that family, the 700 years history of that family. So it was a very complex and difficult research project. So he devoted all his time to this research project and finally came out with some very interesting findings. He reported his findings to a journal and it was published, but he was very, very disappointed thereafter. He found that no one read his paper except for himself, the journal editor, and the reviewers. No one else read his paper. So disappointed by this particular thing, he decided to convert the entire research experience into a short film, a documentary of 30 minutes. In fact, it is a 43 minutes documentary. So he converted his documentary into this. This is the title of the documentary, and the name of the person is Joe Thomas Caricature. Okay, and the title of that short film is Guli's Children. Guli is another name for Kuli or Calicut in Kerala. Okay, so Guli's Children is the name of that short film. So he converted his research findings into this short film, and now you won't believe he has been invited by 7 countries. He has been to 7 countries to screen this movie and talk about his research findings. Now a large number of people know him, and suddenly, apart from that, suddenly he has also discovered that he can be a very good filmmaker. Now people invite him to talk about filmmaking. So you see how he suddenly discovered one of his hidden abilities.
Hidden, yes.
Take the Johari window, he suddenly discovered. So this is an experiment which he did, and it was hugely successful. So the research paper was very complex. It was meant for a very limited number of readers, and even those limited number of readers did not read that research paper. His film has been watched by millions of people worldwide. Now he's a major figure, major researcher, and a major filmmaker. So you see how this can transform your lives. So these are the details. And then we can skip the last selfie campaign, another case study. So that is why, what I mean to say, I'd like to wind it up by saying that as members of the academia, we all find ourselves in the academic bubble. I call it the academic bubble. Academic bubble, it's very beautiful, very exciting. But we need to understand, is it useful? So the contribution it is making to the society. So we need to rethink this seriously so that we develop certain communication skills prior to our research enterprise or endeavor, and so that we can actually make this transformation happen. So with that, I stop here. Okay, I think I stopped in time. And then there is a serious need to rethink,
Yes, sir.
so that we can discover and understand the power of communication, which can transform our research endeavors and which can actually take our research endeavors from the silos to the society, so that we can have a society that is horizontally arranged, not vertically arranged. So that is the end of it. Thank you. Thank you for your time. So if we
Thank
have
you
questions,
so much, sir. Yeah, sir,
yes.
I have a question.
Just a moment. Let me stop this first so that we can,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Fine.
First of all, thank you so much, sir, for a very informative session. And I really want to say thank you, because we all know how to write a paper, how to do things, but we actually don't know how to communicate these things. I mean, I know how to go for publication also. We have some very good publication in international journal with very good impact factor, but we don't know how to communicate it. So my question is that, suppose I have a Google Scholar account and I have n number of papers in that, fine, because I have written n number of papers. So suppose I have n number paper in my account, how can I communicate it to make a high citation by other?
Of course. You see, citation is a big problem. You know,
Yes, sir.
a big problem in the sense that these days uh, depends a lot on networking. Okay, so that's the reason why I always talk about networking. This networking is very important. I mean, especially creating a very, very strong network of researchers in your area and making them a part of your research endeavor is in fact a challenge. So if you create a network of researchers who also practice the same area as you do, chances of getting higher citation will go up. Otherwise, it will not be easy. So networking is the key to getting higher citations. And it will be a big ask coming up, I mean, a big expectation or a great expectation if you think that you have written a very good paper and your research paper has been published in a very reputed journal, and it will be read and it will get high citations. That will be a great expectation, I tell you.
Yes, sir.
It is highly path-breaking. Okay, unless it is highly groundbreaking, that may not happen, because it is all about creating a network so that you cite the paper of somebody else in that network, and in return they cite your paper. It is almost like exchanging Facebook or Instagram likes. So yesterday I posted my profile image and you liked my profile image. Today you post your profile image, I like it in exchange. So it is almost like that. Okay, so unless your article is groundbreaking, it may not be cited by many. The citation will be restricted to somewhere between 1 and 10, not more than that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Any other question?
I think so. The session is so much clear that, yes, sir. There is a question by Saurabh
It was
Pandey.
either very clear or it was not clear at all.
No, sir, it is very much clear. There is a question by Saurabh Pandey. Is research must be written in written form? Is research must be in written form?
Yeah, right. That's a very interesting question. Saurav, yes. Research needs to be documented, and especially in the written form, so that we create a database of records. You know, our country, if you look at our country, it has had a history of one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Okay. So it has had, I mean, a very rich history of indigenous research accomplishments. And we all know that. We had science, we had medicine, everything in our ancient times. But most of those practices are not available to us because the records of those practices are not available to us. We do not have records. Whatever records we had were actually destroyed by the Britishers during the British rule. But we did not have enough record. So India never had a culture of documenting research accomplishments in written forms. We did not have this culture, but it's very, very important that we develop this culture. And it's always a good idea to create a written record of all the documents.
Yes, sir.
So that the future generations can always take a look at it, can refer to those documents.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, research needs to be documented in the written form, of course.
I think, Saurabh, you now and understand it must be in written form. There is a participant named Siddhar Singh Yadav. Sir, we have allowed you. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. He has raised his hand. Siddhar Singh Yadav, sir. If you want to
Or
ask
if he wishes,
question,
he can write his question in the chat box.
I can say Divyabha Singh. Divyabha, you want to ask something?
Just a moment. Before that, I'll respond to observation. Just a moment.
Saurabh Pandey, yes.
Yes. What is the motto of writing those when human brain is not fond of reading? That's true. I didn't say that. I said that human brain is fond of reading. Of course, it is fond of reading. But it is more active when it reads material that is organized in the story form. Okay? But it is also, if it is not fond of reading, even though it is not fond of reading material that is not written in the story form, that is exactly where the cognitive ability of the brain comes out into play, and then it helps the person understand. So there are two ways of reading. Reading research articles that have reported complex findings is one, because you're reading those research articles for a certain and a specific purpose. And you belong to that limited, a group of limited members who can read and understand that particular research article. But there is another type of readers. Those are the readers who are non-experts and they cannot understand the complex research papers. For example, if you are a student of management, okay, you can understand research ideas, research papers written in management. But if I give you a research paper in neuroscience, it will be very difficult for you to understand. So you can never ever understand a research idea presented in a neuroscience journal. So how do you understand it? So that, you can also know what is neuroscience doing for us, for the humanity, for the betterment of human existence. So it's important. So that's the reason. So it's not the brain doesn't love reading, it loves reading. Okay. So those are the two forms.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
I think it is clear now because our participant who has raised his hand is now saying that he is clear. He has no more question now. So thank you so much, sir, for a very informative session.
Right. Thank you.
I may now request Ugrasen, sir, for formal thank you.
Okay, there is no need for a formal thanksgiving. It's okay. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your words and give an example of Johari window and how to go your research and communicate your research in best way. Thank you so much, sir, for giving your time to us in very short notice. On behalf of
Okay.
Madan Mohan Malviya University of Technology and organizing committee, once again, thank you, sir.
And sir, I also want to add the concept of emerald and imperia, impetus, and onus. Beautiful concept, sir. We actually known to these things, but we are not aware of these words. So thank you, sir, for bringing us in knowledge of these things. Sir, if you want to
Yes.
stay for next session, sir, it will be
No,
honor for
I'll.
us. And if, yes, sir, I know there is
Yes,
time
I
bound
must seek the
also,
permission,
and yes, sir.
because
So, because
I have
our
some.
next speaker has joined now and we don't have time.
Right.
So, sir, if you want to leave, please, sir, you may leave now.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Okay,
Thank
and
you
have a,
so much, sir, for informative session. Thank you, sir.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Participants are requested to stay here because next session is going to soon within a minute. Our esteemed speaker, Dr. Ranjan Kumar Jana sir has joined us. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
वेलकम करें शुरू करें हम करते कैसे हेलो
Ranjan sir. Ranjan sir.
I am getting
Ranjan sir.
are you audible or not?
Am I audible, Ranjan sir?
Yeah, I am getting you.
Ranjan sir, please take a few moments so that we can introduce you because many of our participants had just joined us. I would like to call Priyanka ma'am now for formal introduction of sir.
Should I start, Bharti ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
A
ma'am.
very refreshing good morning to all of you again on this online forum of short-term course. I, Dr. Priyanka Rai, welcome you all again on behalf of Department of Humanities and Management Science, Madan Mohan Malviya, University of Technology, Gorakhpur. Today in this session, we have with us Dr. Ranjan Kumar Jana sir, who is Assistant Professor in Mathematics at Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, Surat, Gujarat. We welcome you, sir, on this forum. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Sir will be covering the topic optimization techniques in research methodology. I am sure that after listening and learning from sir, we will definitely have many more relevant things to add to our thesis and research paper. Before starting the session and inviting sir for the session, I would like to give a brief introduction about the sir. Dr. Rajan Kumar Jana sir is working as assistant professor in mathematics at SVNIT Surat since December 2006. Prior to joining to SVNIT, he also worked as lecturer at Nirma University, Ahmedabad, research fellow at Space Application Center, ISRO, Ahmedabad, from 2004 to 2006, and Vishwa Bharati Santi Niketan 2003 to 2004. Jana sir has been awarded Research Associateship by Institute of Mathematical Science, Chennai from June 2015 to May 2018. At SVNIT, his group is working on operations research, spatial function, integral transform, and data assimilation. Sir has published 25 research papers in national and international journal of repute and reviewed 32 papers. He has guided 4 students for PhD and 8 students are currently working towards PhD degree. 22 students completed their master dissertation, 11 students completed their summer internship, and 1 student completed his winter project under his able guidance. He has completed 4 research projects, each sponsored by DST, CSIR, SVNIT, and SUB. Currently, one project is going, which is sponsored by ISRO. Dr. Jana sir has organized 11 national international conferences, 34 seminar, symposium, 9 workshop, 9 short-term training programs, and 2 lecture series, 21 expert lectures at SVNIT. He has also visited different universities like George Washington University, Washington DC, University of Illinois at Urban Campaign, University of Wisconsin at Madison, Texas Tech University, University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire in USA, Rajmangala University of Technology at Thailand, and University of Porto and Portugal for academic purposes. He has delivered 69 invited lectures at different universities and institutions. He is member of American Mathematical Society, Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics, and life member of Indian Mathematical Society, Ramanujan Mathematical Society, and Calcutta Mathematical Society too. Operational Research Society is also included in that. And with these brief description about the sir, now I request Jana sir to please continue with the session. We will be much delighted with his session and his presence. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir, and thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for elongated introduction, madam. My personal behalf as well as from the Institute SVNIT. Am I audible?
Sir, your voice is low a little bit. Sir, not properly audible.
Now it is.
So it is coming, but voice is very
Your
low.
voice is coming, but it is very low.
My line closer to me.
Is it okay now? Or, hello? Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. It is okay.
Can I go forward now? Hello? Thank you very
Yes,
much for
sir.
this introduction. And I, on my personal behalf, as well as from SVNIT, which is also collaborating institute for Decade 3. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I thank you, the organizing committee of Partner Course, Nascent Research Methods, Challenges, and various analytical tools and techniques for inviting me as a resource person to deliver a talk on this SPC. And I think that this talk on optimization technique, classical and advanced, will be useful for the humanities as well as management student as well as faculty, and which will motivate, which is one of the important topics nowadays. So I'll start. Here I have not gone for the deep details. I thought that there are several students who is pursuing MBA as well as initial researcher are there. So I have not gone through the deep of the. I just overview the different optimization techniques, which are essentially classical, and some of the modern and advanced optimization techniques which we are used in our research, that also we will discuss. So it will be like an overview lecture, not in details. So I hope that it will be interesting. Okay. So optimization is derived from the Latin word optimus, the base. PPT visible?
Yes, sir. Visible. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the Latin word optimus, which means.
Excuse me, sir. Your voice is not clear, sir. There is some problem from you, sir. If sir, if possible, kindly use the earphone.
can drop that little bit. 1 minute.
Yes, sir. उनसे मांगे क्या इनके पास 2 हेडफोन है
Hello, am I audible now? Hello.
Sir, you are audible. Sir, some extra voice is coming. Hello. Sir, some extra voice is coming.
Extra voice is coming.
Yeah. I think lot of line are some extra.
So please check the system volume also. It may be at low.
Madam, I am leaving now. I am going to the
आ रही है मेरी आवाज? आ रही है सर की आवाज?
Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Am
sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, now your voice is clear.
yeah. Now I am going through.
Yes, sir. Much clear.
Okay, so we go to the first slide now. What means optimization? It is coming from the Latin word optimus, which means the best. And this characterizes the activities involved to find the best. Throughout this talk, we will go for the finding the best solution from a problem. And the optimization technique or operation research is not a very old subject. During the Second World War, the Alice group, which consists of Great Britain, US, and France, they want to utilize their available resources in optimum way. So they make a blanket circus consist of 3 physiologists, 1 physicist, 1 army officer, 1 surveyor, and 2 mathematicians to give us the solution, give them the solution to optimize their resources of ammunition, food grains, and whatever available resources to optimize way, such a way that they can win the war. So this is the history of operation research or optimization technique. And in the mathematical formulation of optimization problem is nothing but finding a solution which either will maximize or minimize the objective function and subject to certain constant. The constant may be some inequality or maybe equality. And if we go for the feasible solution, then the variables should all be greater than equal to 0. And if you go through the different methods, then these are the methods. Here, some of the methods are classical and some of the methods are advanced. So it is a list of the methods. So we use calculus method, calculus of variation, nonlinear programming, geometric programming. So throughout this journey of this talk, we will discuss about little bit about all of this method. Okay. Then the main motivation of studying optimization is its application. So it's
Its application can be from the civil engineering to make structures such as frame, foundation, bridges, towers, and several others. Similarly, designing a minimum weight structure of earthquake, wind, and other types of random loading. Design of a water resource system to optimize the maximum benefit. To design the pipeline networks for a processing industry or maybe a city like that. Then in space also, like optimal trajectory of the space vehicles. Then design of farm, turbines, and heat transfer equipment for maximum efficiency. Similarly, planning and maintenance of replacement of equipment to reduce operating cost. We know that if my car has the operating cost is maximum, that time I have to resell the car or replace the car. Similarly, selecting a site for an industry, then allocation of resources of service using several activities to maximize the benefit, planning the best strategy. So this is nothing but the best strategy is nothing but for the game theory to get the maximum profit in the presence of a competitor. So in game theory, there will be opponent or competitor. It will be not a single way. Similarly, to design a chemical processing equipment and plants, optimal production planning, controlling and scheduling. Not only that, inventory control. Inventory control is the thing what you work. Then to develop the model for the optimizations, we need several processes. So there are 5 phases of work we have to do to design or develop a model. So first one is data collection, which needs a time consuming thing. Then we have to define the problem and formulate using several dependent and independent variables. Then what are the underlying equation between them? What are the constants there? So these are the things. And by the way, we will develop the model. Then after developing the model, we have to go for the solutions. Then whatever the result we got, whether this is a valid result or not. So we have to evaluation of the performance. Then the application, whatever the model or whatever the solutions we got, where it will apply, and the interpretation of the solutions. So these are the 5 pages of optimization model development. Now, if you go through the historical development of this subject, then it is traced back to Isaac Newton, the development of differential calculus methods of optimization. So since in the second or third slide, I have told that this is nothing but the maximize or minimize. So it is coming from the calculus actually. To get the maximum or minimize of the functions, we have to go for the first order derivative equal to 0. Then you have to check the second order derivative whether it is greater than 0 or less than 0. If it is greater than 0, then I will get the minimum, and if it is less than 0, then I will get the maximum. Then Lagrange gives something about calculus of variation, functional minimization, then optimization of constant problem. Then Augustin Louis Cauchy also given some method of direct substitution, steepest descent method. Not only that, which is used for unconstant optimization. Euler has a contribution on calculus of variations, minimization of functionals. Then Leibniz has differential calculus methods of optimization. Then if you go through the linear programming and simplex method, then G.B. Danzig has the contribution on that. Then Richard Bellman, from which we know the principle of optimality for dynamic programming problem. Then H.W. Kuhn, who gave the necessary and sufficient condition for the optimal solution of the problem. Okay. Then William Tucker, who gave also the necessary and sufficient condition for optimal solution of the nonlinear programming problem, game theory. And John D. Nash, who got the Nobel Prize for economics, who is working in game theory, is the students of William Tucker. Then von Neumann's game also there, who contributed a lot in game theory as well. Then several persons, Duffin, Euler, and Peterson proposed the geometric programming approach. Gomori given the Gomori's cutting plane algorithm, which is given by Ari Gomori. Then Land and Doig integer programming branch and bound algorithm. Chance and Cooper gave the goal programming method. So these are the several contributors, Chance, Cooper, and Simons, which give the chance constant programming problem. Then Rogen and Utendijk give the nonlinear programming in early 1960s. So it is not a very old subject. Then unconstant programming, then part and CPM, which is also used in after the
Second World War, which is E.I. DuPont, Numers and Company, and US Navy, which given the project evaluation and review technique and critical path method, part and CPM. And if you go for the classification of the optimization problem, classification is based on constant. If I have a constant optimization problem, if there is no constant, I can classify it as unconstant optimization problem. Then, depending on the nature of design variables, if your variables are static, which is not, will be static optimization problem, and dynamic programming based on that only. Okay. Then physical structure of the problem. Depending on the physical structure of the problem, it will be optimal control problem and non-optimal control problem. Then what type of equations involved in the problem, whether it is a linear, whether it is a quadratic, whether it is geometric, whether it is non-linear. So depending upon that, we can categorize the problem into this type of one. So now, then permissible values of the designing variable, whether I need only the integer value, then it will be integer programming. If it is real value, then real value. There is also binary programming also nowadays, which is nothing but, hello, am I audible again?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Audible. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Audible,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, going. Deterministic nature of the variable. So if the probability is involved, then it will be stochastic programming problem. Otherwise, it will be deterministic programming problem. Then if I can separate the problem like that in LPP, if I go for decomposition principle, I can go for the sub problem. So that time it will be called separable programming problem, and the problem which cannot be separated, which it can be called as a non-separable programming problem. Then if I have a several number of objective functions, then I can say at multi-objective programming problem. If I have only one objective function, then I can go for single objective programming problem. Now I'll go for different classical optimization technique, which we use generally or we taught. Okay, so this is nothing but single variable optimization, which based is calculus. In class 11, 12, we have also studies also in the mathematics like that. It is based on the derivative, first order derivative, and so this is the finding the optimal solution of continuous and differentiable function. These methods are analytical method, and to find the optimum points. There are several applications finding the maximum and minimum. And this is the, if your graph is this one, then you can go for, okay, global minima and local minima. Okay, a function of one variable has a relative or local minima like that. These are the conditions. You need not to go for the mathematics behind it. You just go through what is the logic of this. Okay, so this is nothing but the red color is giving you the global minima, which is the most minimum. Among the minima, which is the minimum least, that is called the global minima, and several other minimum is there where the functional value is the minima. So that called the local minima. Same case for the maximum also. So for relative maxima also, I can use the same logic. Now, what is the necessary condition? Necessary condition is that the first order derivative must be equal to 0. And that point, it will be called as the stationary point. Then if it is stationary point, there is a concept of also sufficient conditions, whether it has give the maximum value or minimum value. And if the nth order derivative is greater than 0. So if I have all the derivative up to n minus 1 is 0, but fnx not equal to 0, then the minimum value of fx if n is even and fnx star greater than 0, and it is maximum value if fnx star less than 0 and n is even, and if it is neither maximum or neither minimum if n is odd. There is a method which is called constant variation. For that, we need to know about the Rth differential. So what is Rth differential? Rth differential is nothing but derivative with respect to x with respect to its different component up to R summations. If you go through the figure, then it is, and the interrogation sign is like that, dot, 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 dot. dxi dxj up to dxk. So we are taking the R summation. Summation is run over R. This is called the rth differential of f at x star. X star is an continue. X star is a point where I have to find the minimum or maximum. Okay, and here I have given an example where r equal to 2 and n equal to 3. N is the number of components of x, x1, x2, x3. So I have a function f which is of dependent variable x1, x2, x3. Then if I want to find the second order differential, it will be look like that. So I it will be gone from 1 to 3, j also it will be go to 1 to 3, hi aj del 2 f x star del x I. And from this concept, we are going for the Hessian matrix and all the things, and which will contribute to optimization of several linear and nonlinear programming problems. Linear programming problem you will not get Hessian matrix because it is function linear, so you will not get the second order. Second order it will be always 0. So these are the multivariable optimization problem with no constant. So we are going for unconstant optimization problem, but the variable is multivariable. So we have more than one variable, and for that we have to go for the rth differential, and we will find Rn x star is, and that way we can find it. So necessary condition and sufficient conditions also like that. Yeah, if I find the Hessian matrix, if it is positive definite, I can say that x star is a relative minimum point, and if the Hessian matrix is negative definite, then I can say that x star is a relative minimum point. So for the multivariable problem, we have to go for finding the Hessian matrix. What is Hessian matrix? Hessian matrix is nothing but the matrix of second order partial derivatives. What is partial derivatives? Partial derivatives, when a function is depending upon more than one variable, then we will not go for the ordinary derivative, we have to find the partial derivatives. So the second order partial derivatives will form a matrix that we will call the Hessian matrix. And when I will not get any maximum or minimum for certain point for a function, that point it will be called as the saddle point. In the case of a function two variables, the Hessian matrix may be neither positive nor negative definite. At that time, we lead with del f del x del f del y equal to 0. In such a case, the point is called the saddle point. So this is the example in the figure where you get the saddle point. Here the Hessian matrix is neither positive definite nor negative definite. That's why it is saddle point. Now I am going for the constant optimization. The constant is equality. For that we have a method which is called the direct substitution method, and there is a method also called solution by constant variation. So this is the constant variation method. I will skip. These are the method. This is the first differential we have taken, and constant variations is like that. Okay. And what is the necessary condition? Necessary condition is the procedure described can be generalized. So here what we will go for direct substitution method, we are going for n minus m variables at 0. Then we will go for the m by m. Whatever the solutions I will get, that will be give me the solution. So this is the method of constant variations. Okay, so number of constant, it will be exactly, I have taken n minus m variables as 0, so that's why exactly the number of constant and the number of variables we will take as same. So I will get a determinant. The order of the square matrix, it is square matrix, that's why I will get a determinant. And if this determinant is 0, then I will get the solution. Then another method for equality constant are there. It is called the Lagrange multiplier method, which is also a very useful method. If I go for the two variable, then it will be like look like that. It is minimization of fx1 x2 subject to gx1 x2 equal to 0. So we will construct a Lagrangian constant, which is nothing but fx1 x2 plus lambda g. Lambda is called the Lagrange multiplier, and this is lx1 x2 lambda. It is called the Lagrangian function. And for this, what we have to go for? We have to find the value of x1, x2 and lambda by going for the partial derivatives of them as 0. Del L del x1, del L del x2 and del L del lambda equal to 0. And from them we got x1, x2 and lambda value. And now if it is inequality constant, then we have to go for non-negative slack variables. We'll write them as a less than equal to 0 form. Then we'll use the slack variables and we model this like that and construct the Lagrangian function, and we'll go for Kuhn-Tucker conditions. So this is the method. Kuhn-Tucker conditions are very important because every time we lead with several type of inequality constant, and this is the method which will give you the solutions of the nonlinear programming problem with inequality constant. There is only a class of problems called convex programming problem for which the Kuhn-Tucker condition necessary and have sufficient condition for a global minimum. So to find the minimization point, we have to go for convex programming problem. So we have to go for finding one type of solutions, we have to go for another type of problem. So the subject is vast actually. So for Kuhn-Tucker conditions, we have to go for several active constant and inactive constant, and from active constant we will find the lambda values and the value of the variable. Then there is a constant qualification. There are several constant qualification, Schaeffer constant qualification, Kuhn-Tucker constant qualifications like that. I will not discuss about that. These are little bit mathematics things. I'll rather go to the general concept and modern optimization method like that. So although we found that the Kuhn-Tucker condition represents necessary condition for optimality, but feasible solution can be written by this type of condition. These are the conditions which called the Kuhn-Tucker condition, the figure in the below. So in the previous what we have discussed the constant problem with inequality constant. I have silent about whether that problem is linear or non-linear. Now if it is linear, when it will be linear? If the objective functions is linear as well as the constant are all linear, then that type of problem it will be called a linear programming problem. And if you write a problem in terms of matrix form, then it will be look like this. It is nothing but fx equal to, it may be minimize or maximize, whatever it may be. X may be has several components, x1, x2, dot, 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 xn, then ct x. Okay, if it is ct, if you take transpose, then only multiplication is possible. Okay, because c is also from c1, c2 up to cn, and A is nothing but the matrix, which is also Mn matrix, and B if I have a M constant. Okay, so this is the matrix form of the linear programming problem. Linear programming problem is an optimization method applicable for the solution of problem in which the objective function as well as the constant is linear. There is no Nobel Prize for mathematics, but using linear programming problem, several person, at least I think 5 person got the Nobel Prize using linear, 4 Nobel Prizes, sorry. At least 4 Nobel Prizes are awarded for contributors related to linear programming. Like in 1975, Kantra, who is the former Soviet Union, T.C. Kubmans of USA, several, so total 4 person who work on linear programming problem got the Nobel Prize in economics or game theory. Linear programming problem has several solution technique like graphical method, simplex method, reverse simplex method, dual simplex method, two-phase method, big M method, decomposition principle, as well as Karmakar algorithm as well. Now we are going for numerical optimizations. Numerical optimization technique, which is little bit gradient based method also. Here what we will go for? We will search the, it is nothing but the search technique where the optimum lies. So we will explore the search space and exploit the search space also. Okay. So for exploration, we will go for the search direction, or which is called the movement direction, and for the exploitation, we will take the step size. How much I have to go for this direction? So if you go for this picture, that it will be give you. So here, this is S1, S2, S3 are the search direction, and lambda 1, lambda 2 are the step length. So in this search direction, how much we go for? So here, the optimum point is I will reach by using this type of exploration, and this type of method is called the iterative process of optimization. So the algorithm is like that: start with an initial trial point, then find a suitable direction, then find an appropriate step length, lambda I star, obtain the new approximation xi plus 1 equal to xi plus lambda I star si, and test whether this xi plus 1 is optimum. If it is optimum, then it is stop the procedure, otherwise we can go for the next. This is nothing but the iterative process of optimization, and this is nothing but the gradient based optimization. Okay, so this is, now we go for nonlinear optimization problem using search direction. Like that, there are several methods which is there, which is called, first one is elimination method. What we will do, we will go for the interval optimization, and we will comment about the whether there is a root or not. If some interval there is no root, I can eliminate that interval. So that type of, there is several methods: unrestricted search, exhaustive search, dictoma search, Fibonacci method, golden section method. These are the method. It is interval optimizations. We will go for the elimination method. Similarly, we can find the root by the interpolation method also. Then some method where requiring no derivatives, which require derivatives also. In cubic interpolation, direct root method, we need the derivative, but quadratic interpolations, we need to go for the derivative of the function. This is multidimensional minimization method. Here also it is unconstant minimization method. We can go for direct search using random search method, univariate method, pattern search method, piles method, and hooks and jeeps method, Rosenberg's method, like rotating of coordinates. Then there is simplex method as well. Then, which is one of the important method, which is called descent method. There is steepest descent method, conjugate gradient method, Newton's method, variable metric method. So this method use the gradient or using the derivative. So this is the gradient method where we can go for the finding the gradient. Direct root method, there is several methods like Newton method, quasi-Newton method, and second method where we find the root. In Newton method, what we will go for? We will go for lambda I plus 1 or xi plus 1 equal to xi minus f star xi divided by f double dash xi. And the convergence condition is like that: f dash x must be less than or equal to epsilon, where epsilon is a small quantity. So this is the graphical representation of lambda and f dash lambda. We are going for where f dash lambda is 0. Then multidimensional minimization method. This is constant minimization. Previously we have go for unconstant. Now it is constant minimization method. There are several direct and indirect method. Indirect method, you can go for heuristic search method. This is one of the complex method. Then constant approximation method or cut-in plane method. Then finding the method of feasible direction or finding the feasible directions. Feasible direction are the directions where I can get the feasible solution of the problem. Then in indirect method, we have two methods, which is one of the transformation, another is penalty function method. There are several other special type of optimization problem also, like geometric programming problem, quadratic programming problem, dynamic programming, integer programming, stochastic programming. Then network methods, CPM and PART. CPM is nothing but the critical path method, and PART is project evaluation and review technique. Game theory also there, where we have 2% zero sum game, n by n game also like that. What is geometric programming? In geometric programming, the objective function and constant are expressed in terms of polynomial. We learn polynomial or monomial, but here it is polynomial. What is polynomial? Polynomial is nothing but this type of functions which can be written in terms of variables exponent, x1 to the power a1k, x2 to the power a2k, and a1k, a2k may not be the integer. It may be a real number. So, and geometry, the general geometric programming problem is written by this way, minimizing objective function f0x subject to this. There may be some less than or equal to constant, some equality constant as well, where fi is also polynomial terms, hi has monomial terms. In quadratic programming problem, your objective function is quadratic and all the constants are linear. So this is a special type of problem. It is, though it is a nonlinear programming problem, but it is special type of problem where the objective function is quadratic and the constant or linear. So that's why it is called the special type of optimization problem. In integer programming problem, we need the solution as the integer, whatever the problem it has, but I need the solution as the integer. So that's why it is called the integer programming problem. In stochastic programming problem, it is nothing but the probability is involved. It is the solution of the optimization problem in which some of the variables are described by probability distribution. So if I have a if I am tossing a coin, so there is a probability that whether it is a tail or head. So if that type of random variable, if I will take into consideration to find the solution of a problem, that type of problem it is called the stochastic programming problem. This is one of the important thing, optimal control theory, dynamical system, it is evolving over time. So here time is important. It is optimal way to control a dynamic system. It needs the prerequisite of calculus, vectors, matrix, ordinary differential equation as well as partial differential equation. Ordinary differential equation when one variable is involved, partial differential equations when there are huge applications in aerospace, production, finance, economics, marketing, and others. So here the dynamic system can be represented in terms of 1.1, where it is nothing but x just t, it is fxt ut. So here the change of x is depending upon what? Not only x, the control variable u as well as time. So if I have that type of variable, then it is called the, so here xt is a state variable, ut is control variable. And the control is to maximize the objective functions. Objective function is written in terms of functional, fxt, ut, ttt, xtt. There may be constant optimization also, where some constant may be inequality. So these are the examples. Then separable programming problem. A function fx is said to be separable if it can be expressed as the sum of n single variable functions like that. So if fx can be written as this way, that type of it will call separable. So if my objective function can be written this way, that time I can separate the problem into several parts. That's why it is called separable programming problem. Now we can come forward for multi-objective programming problem. So here I have several objective functions. Okay, so there we have to give some priorities, which if suppose I am going for preparing the timetable of a class, suppose. So I have a available teacher. So I want to engage maximum number of class. That in similar way, I want to use my resources like teacher. So I have to engage the teachers also. Following like that, if I have a assistant professor, I have to give the 16 class, assistant professor 12 class, professor 8 class, whatever the designated thing that I have to go for. But I have to use the maximum resources as well as, so which one I have to give the priority, that is important. Whether I want to give the priority to optimize the resources or want to engage the class, that is depending upon the need. Okay, so that type of problem can be modeled in terms of multi-objective programming problem. So there is a Pareto optimum set, which is consists of design which cannot be improved with respect to all criteria at the same time. So you have to, if you go for some priorities, then you have to lose the other priority. So it is not always you will get the optimum in all.
Sir, your voice is not coming. Ranjan sir? वो दिख ही नहीं रहा है मुझे। हमें लग रहा है वो खुद होंगे मैम। Participants, I think sir has some network issue. We are trying to get connected with sir very soon. Wait. Respected participants, respected faculty members, sir is disconnected due to Wi-Fi problem. He is joining us very soon. Please be with us.
Hello, am I audible? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, okay. So now, if we go for the screen share now, are you in the screen?
Yes, sir,
Madam?
screen is visible.
Yeah. So now we are going for the Pareto option. So suppose we are calling for number. One number is cheapest, which take the minimum cost, and another is minimum time he required, or he do quickest. The work can be done very quickly. So for that, what do you have to go for? We have to give more money actually. So in Pareto solutions, what we have to go for? We have to not go for both the things simultaneously. So the solution space, if you go to in the right side, so you have to go for the solution space, it will be D. So conclusion, don't put up with D, you have to land up with C. So you have to contribute. If I have F1, which is the cheapest, and F2 quickest, then you have to go in the middle, not like both of the things you cannot go for. So point D is not Pareto optimal, but C will be a good choice. And what are the methods we generally follow for multi-objective problem? We follow weighted sum method, global criteria method, fuzzy programming method, weighted product method, coarse programming method. Now we are go for the second part of my talk, which is modern optimization technique, which is, so we also will go for several analytical methods. One is called cone programming, co-positive programming, approximation of combinatorially, and hard optimization problem. So these are the methods we use actually for analytical method, and there are several robust optimization, meta-heuristic optimization technique. Then there are also another methods which are bio-inspired, which is of maximum use nowadays, like machine learning technique, deep learning. They are using artificial neural network. Apart from that, there is genetic programming problem, genetic algorithm, and colony optimization, particle swarm optimization. There is one of the method which is developed by us in SVNIT, not us, our Professor R.B. Rao and his team, teaching learning based optimizations, which is used by us actually. So it is also artificial neural network based optimization. Of this, it's a technique of order preference similarity of the ideal solution. Then hybrid methods in optimization. Now genetic algorithm, it is a motivation for future. Hey, it is nothing but natural selection, natural evolution. It is depending upon two things: natural evolution and genetics. And it is nothing but the depending upon the statement of Darwin, which is called survival of the fittest. And another thing is present generation is better than the previous generation. And here we use the guided search procedure, and offspring are created by duplication, crossover, or mutation. And good solutions are retained and bad are deleted. So we can develop the algorithm for that. And the selections it will be do by random, that is probabilistic. We will do the cyclic crossover, and mutations it will be random mutation. So these are the probabilistic selection which you use as Boltzmann probabilistic function, which is P, capital P is exponential function of A minimum minus fx by capital T, and T itself is depending upon T0, 1 minus alpha all to the power K, K is 1 plus 100 star G by G. So this is the program we use for genetic algorithm, and A minimum is the minimum of the mating pool. L is nothing but the gene variation which we have to do for mutation. So crossover can be done between two alleles. Okay, so it can be comes from the parent together with its position. So we will do that. Real representation of lack of time, we are not discussing in details, but it will be helpful if you go through the literature and go through the exact method. Okay, we develop also genetic algorithm program in C. So from that, if you give the directly, you will get the solution. Okay, here we will not get the exact solutions, we will get the approximate. So evolutionary algorithm as optimizers. So at time t0, go for the, we'll check the first order derivative. If it is there, then we'll go for selection or other. Population of solutions, which is called generation, equal to 0. Value I takes. I got the result, then it will be 8. If it is not, then I'll go for evaluating the fitness for all of its population. Then we'll do using the genetic algorithm. It is nothing but the probability technique, and it is used to finding the good paths through graphs. Okay. Method also here, wonder method, search method, return mode, attracted mode, trace mode, carry mode, etc. Search for the food, one going for the food. This is cooperative. Spread by the ant whenever they go for the path. Ant is going for again, after some time you will get that all are going for the optimal.
Ranjan sir, kindly unmute yourself. Hello, Ranjan sir, your voice is not coming.
Okay, I have not so much slide. I'll complete actually after some time. So I will go or then this is issue concept. This is ants will navigate from to food source. So what is discovered by the what I am telling is deposited on path. The next term this intent to and being followed. Random are more like so mu these are and swarm of
There is some network issues on side of Ranjan sir.
so party optimization it is this way really and position particle current value current position and will go for it. Then the next from base minus the model from particle sizes. So these are the things, and the flowchart can be like this. We initialize the particles with random position and velocity vector for each particle position to evaluate the fitness.
रंजन सर को देखने मैं चले गए क्या फिर से नहीं वो कर लेंगे उनको पता है
Hello. Hello.
Yes sir.
Audible?
Sir, voice is not coming.
I don't know what is the wrong. Hello.
Yes sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes sir, it is audible now.
Yes. Are you getting the screen now?
Sir, not now. Yes,
Have
sir.
you got
Now.
the screen now? Yeah. So particle dynamics, this is the PSO algorithm or flow of PSO, particle swarm optimization. So this is the mathematical model we use for particle swarm. Then we will go for the generation of the, so if you go for a finding the maximizer of a function fx, which is x cube minus 12x square plus 45x, then you landed with, after 5 generations, you landed with the solution as x as a 1.4502396 and the fx value is this. So this is the, if I go for the programming like that, then we'll get this type of value. Each stage I'll get xold, PLB, PGB, VI, XNew. So that type of generation 1, generation 2, like that. Now we are going for a, these are the latest technique for optimization. Optimization in uncertain events. Logic. Set fuzzy set type of environment. Okay. So fuzzy membership functions. So this is the mathematical tool we use for fuzzy mathematical programming. So FMP1, FMP2, FMP3. These are the several type of fuzzy programming and we use for finding the. These are the references we have used. This lecture is other this as needed, I can share the PPT also in the PDF format. It will be helpful for going for this.
Thank you so much, sir. It will be better.
Yeah, no problem. If anybody any question.
मैम रंजन सर डिस्कनेक्ट हो गए थे इधर 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 रंजन सर है तो हाँ 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 सर काइंडली अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now we are getting.
Yeah. Question from.
If any participants have any question,
there is a hand.
Yes, participant can ask question to Ranjan sir. Sir, if I am not mistaken, that ANT network is used in critical path analysis also? Sir, I think
tell me.
Yes, sir. I think there is some connection problem.
Yeah.
आप बोलिए sir.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is there any question from the participant or?
So there is some problem.
I am getting you actually. No.
Sir, what I can do, I will take questions by participants.
Hello?
And I will mail to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir,
okay,
it will be better because there is some network issues. And sir, if it is possible, please share us PPT also.
Yeah, that I'll send the PDF form. Okay, no problem. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you, and sorry for the interruption from the HR side to work from Wi-Fi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us and giving us very valuable information. I know that it is technical error. We are bound to be, I mean, this is also a new normal for us. We have to cope up with these things. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us. I may now request Ugrasen, sir, for a formal vote of thanks to sir.
Thank you.
There is no need of that things. There is a several break of the lecture actually.
This is Dr. Hussain from MMUT. Sir, first of all, very thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge and expert talk on the topic optimization technique in research methodology. Sir, you have enlightened us for historical development in subject, classification of optimization problem, classical optimization techniques in single variable. Sir, you have well explained ecosystem and PSO maximization, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening our participants as well as all organizing committee. And once again, thank you for coming very short notice from our side, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me. If chance come, I'll visit also your institute. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure,
Yeah.
sir, having such eminent personality like you, sir, our STC. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Urgasanji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all participants. And I hope you have enjoyed all the sessions. There are two sessions we have done today. First taken by Dr. Ajit Mishra, sir, and second Dr. Ranjan, sir. And I have think you have enjoyed, and you will consider this expert talk in your near future for your research work. Thank you once again, sir, from the behalf of Humanities and Management Science Department of Madan Mohan Malvi University of Technology and behalf of organizing committee. I am very thankful to you, sir, and all the participants. And all the participants will join tomorrow at sharp 10 a.m. And I request you to join before 10 minutes the program so that we can continue in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to all of you. We are here for 10 minutes so that you can go to feedback form and fill it to ensure your attendance. There were a problem in feedback form, now it is corrected. So please go to feedback form and fill it.
Dear participants, your feedback form will be
Ma'am, kindly
considered
please
as your
post again.
attendance.
Yes, pardon?
Ma'am, kindly please be post feedback form again, since it has been a
Okay,
network
okay, okay, okay.
post.
Okay, participants, it is posted again. So please go to feedback form and fill it.
Those candidate who has completed their feedback form can leave the session. Sakshi Tiwari is asking for this feedback form. Come on. Shall we close the session, ma'am? Ma'am?